After praying, we crossed the road and followed the narrow sandy path into Serime Village. The moment we stepped beneath the tall palm trees, everything changed. The scorching sun disappeared behind a canopy of green. A cool breeze replaced the unbearable heat. For the first time since our journey began, it felt like we could breathe again. We walked quietly for about 15 minutes. No one said much. The only sound was the soft crunch of our boots against the sand. Then, we saw it. A cluster of beautiful mud houses stood ahead of us. Their smooth orange walls glowed beneath the afternoon sun. In the middle of the village, children laughed as they played together. I smiled. Where there were children, there had to be safety. Or so I thought. The moment they noticed us, everything changed. The laughter stopped. Every child froze. Their eyes widened in fear. Then, without warning, they screamed and ran. Within seconds, the entire clearing was empty. I stood there completely confused. Am I really that frightening? I whispered. Usually, I'm the one running away from noisy children, not the other way around. Before we could understand what had just happened, two elderly women appeared from behind one of the huts. They wore traditional wrappers tied firmly across their chests. Their faces carried years of wisdom, but their expressions held no welcome, only suspicion. One of them stepped forward. Who are you strange people? Her voice was cold. I immediately greeted her respectfully and knelt halfway, just as my mother had always taught me. Then I explained everything. The broken bus, our journey, our search for water, and our hope of finding directions to Eberiwana. When I finished speaking, the two women looked at each other silently. Not a single word passed between them. Finally, one of them gestured for us to follow. Mora leaned closer to me. I don't like this, she whispered. I quietly squeezed her hand. God is with us, I replied. Even though my own heart was beating just as fast. They led us deeper into the village, until we arrived before the largest building we had seen. Moments later, a man stepped outside. Every one of us instinctively took a step backward. He was incredibly tall. His skin was as dark as midnight. Across his broad shoulders rested the skin of a tiger. Ancient beads decorated his neck, his wrist, and even his clothing. There was no need for anyone to tell us. This was the ruler of Serime. The two women bowed respectfully and whispered something into his ear. He listened patiently. Then, he looked directly at us. To our surprise, his serious expression melted into a warm smile. How are you feeling, my children? His voice was calm, gentle, welcoming. The fear we had felt only moments earlier slowly began to fade. He invited us to sit beneath shaded clearing with bamboo benches. Then he spoke. You are welcome to Serime. I hear you are searching for Eberiwana. But first, he smiled. You must spend Christmas with us. For a moment, none of us spoke. Christmas. I had almost forgotten it was only 2 days away. Ralph politely thanked him, then explained why we couldn't stay. We were NYSC Corps members. We had a duty to perform. The king looked at our uniforms with genuine curiosity. What is a Corps member? He asked. We exchanged confused glances. Mora patiently explained the National Youth Service Program, our assignment, and why we had traveled so far. The king listened carefully. Then he smiled again. You will still spend Christmas here. I insist. His words were gentle, but they carried the weight of a command. No one argued. No one even knew what to say. Then suddenly, the king laughed. A deep, echoing laugh that rolled through the village. Do not be afraid, he said. These roads are not safe during the festive season. Years ago, a priest lived among us. He taught us about the church. He paused proudly. And the gospel. For the first time that day, we laughed too. His pronunciation of church made the tension disappear. At least for a moment. Curious, I asked. Where is the priest now? And why does the village seem so quiet? For the briefest moment, the king's smile faded. His eyes became distant. Then, just as quickly, the smile returned. The priest is long gone. As for my people, they are working on their farms. They will return. Without another explanation, he called for the elderly women. Take our guests to the guest hut. As we followed the women away, we bowed respectfully. Behind us, the king's laughter echoed through the village once again. I couldn't explain why, but that sound stayed with me, long after he had disappeared from sight. The elderly woman led us to two guest huts beside the king's residence. Both huts looked exactly alike. Their walls were made of thick mud. Their roofs were covered with old thatch. She pointed toward one of them. The ladies will stay here. Then she pointed to the other. The men will stay there. Without another word, she walked away. For a moment, we simply stood there. The long journey, the broken bus, the endless walking. Everything was finally catching up with us. Mora quietly bowed her head. Before stepping into our hut, she whispered a short prayer. Only then did she push the wooden door open. The room surprised us. It was simple, but neat. Two bamboo beds stood against the wall. A rolled sleeping mat rested in one corner. The cool air inside felt like a reward after the scorching heat outside. We dropped our bags, looked around for a few moments, then stepped back outside. The boys hadn't entered their hut. They were still standing outside the door. Why haven't you gone in? Mora asked. Ralph smiled nervously. Toby thinks something feels strange about this place. I couldn't help smiling. Truthfully, I felt the same way. Still, I looked at them and said, pray first, then go inside. The two of them bowed their heads. After a short prayer, they finally entered. Not long afterwards, the elderly woman returned. The king is waiting. We followed her back to the palace. The moment we entered, our stomachs almost answered for us. A large bowl of steaming yam porridge sat on the table. Chunks of roasted fish rested on top. Beside it, fresh drinking water, and a calabash of palm wine. King Bearwi welcomed us with a warm smile. He invited us to sit. Poor Toby had already reached for the food. When I gently held his wrist, please forgive us, Your Majesty, I said. But before we eat, may we know your name? The king burst into laughter. A deep, joyful laughter. I wondered how long it would take before someone asked. Slowly, he rose to his feet. He looked even taller than before. I am King Bearwi Taraba, the 16th, ruler of Serime Village. I bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, Thank you for welcoming us in our homes. We always thank God before every meal. With your permission, we would like to pray. The rest of us also stood. I thanked God for bringing us safely to Serime. I thanked Him for the food before us. I prayed for King Bewi, his household, and everyone in the village. When we finished, we all said, Amen. The king smiled. He lifted his cup of palm wine, took the first drink, then invited us to begin eating. The food was delicious. After everything we had been through that day, it tasted incredible. As we ate, the king suddenly looked at me. I like you, he said softly. You pray with great power. You are a leader, and I can sense a special gift within you. His words caught me by surprise. It felt as though he saw something in me that I hadn't yet discovered myself. Before I could respond, he simply continued eating, as though he hadn't said anything unusual. When dinner was over, Nana and Atira returned to clear the dishes, wanting to show our appreciation. Mora, Shola, and I offered to help. The king nodded his approval. The women led us behind the palace. There, using black soap, native sponges, and water from a large clay pot, we washed every plate. Nana and Atira watched quietly. Neither woman spoke. But when we finished, Nana gave a small nod. It was the very first sign that perhaps they were beginning to trust us. As evening settled over Serime, we thanked the king once again. Everything around us seemed peaceful. The people were kind. The king was generous. The village was beautiful. Yet, deep inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that Serime was hiding something, a secret, and somehow, we had just become part of it.